What's up, guys? Welcome to episode number 2 of Tech Talk with Peter and Daniel. Daniel, what are we doing this week, mate?
We're going to be building a front end, so we'll just be taking you through the stages of building it, the different parts, what we do, why we do it, and
how we go about it.
Bit of a time lapse of building it, and showing you the steps, and maybe giving you some tips on how to help you in the race world build the front end.
Alrighty.
So you want me to kick off for a sec?
Yeah, sure.
Last week, 2 weeks ago, we did our first video, episode 1. Fantastic. Was very new to Daniel and I and Corey, who's behind the camera. We had over 8,000 views, which is terrific. So thank you to all those people that might have got a laugh out of it or might have got some information out of it. We had some great comments from all around Australia and from New Zealand, and even a couple from America. So thank you for that. So as Daniel said, this is how we start with our front end build, and we'll start with 3 complete front end beams here. You'll notice on these beams, all the beams have been powder coated, but I put bolts and nuts in here. Just grab one of those there, Daniel, please, so that the powder coat doesn't go in the thread. One of those bolts, please, mate. No, with the powder coat part on it. Yeah. So I screw these in so that the powder coat doesn't go in the threads in all these here and in here as well. Obviously, is just to protect here, so it saves us some time when we have to ream for the kingpin. So we build 3 front ends at the same time usually. So the front end that's in our car, which is this one here, will go into our trailer now as our spare, and when we start racing in the summer, this will be our main piece, and these 2 beams will be prepared and they'll go into the trailer as well. Make sense?
That definitely makes sense to me.
All right, Dan, you keep going now, what you've done here already.
Yeah, so first step is we're going to file the tops and bottoms of the
axle,
kingpin, cross tube in the axle, and then we're going to ream the center to make sure that there's no excess powder coating, or sometimes the axle builders just make them a little bit undersized so that the kingpin's a perfect fit. Then, as Peter said, he put the bolts in all these holes and nuts on here, so we're going to run a tap and die down all these to make sure all the fasteners go in and out easily. So we'll get in and do that now, and we'll talk to you when we get up to the next step.
Also, we use our front axles are a standard 50-inch Sprintcar axle, 2.5-inch diameter. These are built by Brad Hilder in Queensland at BHR Fabrication, and we use a front axle with 3 shock holes so that we can run a 6-inch, 7-inch or an 8-inch front shock absorber. A lot of people run these days. I like them because they're really strong, and you can use whatever length shock you want. You're not limited. So that's why we have these different style of front axles. Brad builds them for us. As I say, they're strong. Daniel can run into things and doesn't usually do much damage. Like you go, Dan. And it's just, this is where we were saying a fortnight ago, our first video, where the time goes in things that you have to do to prepare for your race season. somewhere. So what I'll do here is I'll just clean these up just a tiny bit. As you can see, they don't need much. Just to take the little bit of powder coat off, so that when you put your shims in there, they all fit in there nice, and the powder coat, it doesn't give you an incorrect reading when you put your spindle on. I'll just clean the bottom up as well. It doesn't need much. But if you haven't covered in powder coat, it's a real pain in the butt. So what we've got here is the kingpin is just snug. So Daniel will just run the reamer through it. He's using the drill. So that's how we like to roll. Yeah.
Now it should fit.
Now it should fit. And there we go. The kingpin is nice in there. These are steel kingpins. A lot of guys use titanium. I'm not a fan of much titanium in the front ends. We use as little as possible because this is a high contact area, and you know
we need the weight.
And we need the weight because Daniel's skinny. Another reason why we like to use these front ends, if we can just zoom in here, is that when Brad makes them, these are all really nicely welded around here, and the tubing is it comes right around the kingpin eye, so that's quite good.
So next step is now we've cleaned out where our kingpins slide through the axle, we're going to fit the new spindles. So these are a straight spout spindle, new black anodized one. As we did before, we just make sure our kingpin slides through the spindle. So now we're going to put this on here as such. So that's a shim kit for the kingpin and spindle. So there's a little thrust washer bearing here. So the spindle sits on top, well, it goes underneath the axle, and the weight of the axle sits on top of there, and it allows the the spindle to move freely. So we'll just grease everything up, put it together.
As you can feel on a pan around here, we use QTM front brakes. Once again, not titanium, these are steel. QTM caliper and rotor, and we use SCI winter spindles, SCI combo arms, and weld front hubs is our choice. Mostly because of the front end that you saw before in the car. This is exactly the same, so that the equipment is the same. The wheel nuts are the same size. You don't need different spanners to take the wheels off from this one to that one. And then when this is ready to go, it'll have its own radius rods. Yeah. Everything will be attached. This is Puma grease. We were fortunate enough to be sponsored by Puma this year for a few products. To be perfectly honest, it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference, because this is an area that's highly maintenanced on the car, because there's grease fittings in the back of the spindles, and they're greased pretty much every time that you race. There's obviously plenty of grease in there. And then
it should be a nice slide fit. You should be able to just push it in.
There you go. Push it in with your hands. So then that's how it should be. There's a locking nut to go on the bottom. Some people run the kingpins the other way up. I don't.
It allows them to get the brakes off without having to take the caliper off. But
that's right.
if
we don't run them.
Up, yeah, you're in trouble.
Yeah, we run it like that. Here's some rag here. It's a messy job, yeah, but there you go. And we'll just sit this one in the other side. Daniel's got his bearing and 2 shims. Perfect. Perfect. But of course, you get plenty of grease on your hands. But that's just how it is. These are the locking nuts that go on the bottom of the kingpins. Just a nice little aluminium piece. Daniel just put a smear of grease on there. So I'll just fit that. This stuff's beautiful, isn't it? How nice is it? Working with nice equipment. So, much to everyone's delight, you don't use shifters on those like most people do, but they don't need to be over tightened either. Just a little, just over a nip. So is like the finished product. If you come in the back here, there's 2 grease nipple fittings in here. We'll put Zerk fittings in there, which are the flat ones with a special grease filler. I bought some new ones, but I can't find them. So, so that'll be for another day.
Yep.
So this is how they come from Weld, which is 2 new bearings, the seal and the lock. It's the back dust seal, new studs, brake that hold the disc on. The only thing we don't use in this kit is that we use titanium wheel nuts. I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference, to be perfectly frank.
It's just for the so
they're both the same. So they're both the same. So that's what you get, and then of course that's the cap to hold it all on. So Daniel will now have the pleasure of making these brakes happen, and we'll be good to go.
I'm going to actually grease the bearings.
Grease the bearings.
So I'll show you how to do that. There's no real clean way of doing this. You just grab a big blob of grease and put on your hand, believe it or not.
Only way. You can buy grease bearing. You can buy tools to do it, but they're crap. This is the only way to do it.
So basically, you want to roll the bearing into it, and I'm watching the grease come through to the other side here.
Yep.
And once it's all the way through, then I know that there's grease throughout the whole bearing. So as you can see, that bearing's full of grease all the way around, and I have no blob of grease, just a big mess. So I'll do it to another 3 bearings and we'll come back.
Daniel's just finishing greasing the bearings in the front hubs. Whilst we're waiting for that, I thought I'd just put the new wheel studs in. So they're pretty straightforward, as anyone can see. I just put a daub of Loctite on them so that the bloody things don't turn when you're in a hurry putting the wheels on and off.
we'll just say at the end.
There we go.
Around with the torque.
Yes.
All right, so we got our 4 greased bearings here. We'll start with the back one, which has the rear dust seal. So pull that out of the packet. So we basically just put another run of grease just on the bearing cup. You can never have too much grease. Well, I don't think you can anyway. So we just drop that straight in.
Move it, you won't be dirty hands.
Peter's going to do the seal. Rubber mallet.
Soft hammer.
We call that going round the world.
Yeah. The seal fitted. That looks all good. Daniel's bearings in there. Flip it over now, Dan, and you can get dirty again.
Yep. We won't put that one on till we put on the spindle, so we'll just do the next one.
This one's for the front right wheel, isn't it? Because it hasn't got the bit to
Correct.
hold on the brake pad.
Yes.
Correct, Corey. That's good
the right front.
observation.
I'm very
Lucky you're here, Corey.
observational when I want to be.
Yeah, so yep. Sorry. If you look at the bottom, that's got 3 threads for the brake disc to mount to. So that's left front, that's the right front. Now we've got our hub all greased up, so we're going to take our grease over here and just apply a light layer of grease on the spindle here and up where the seal runs, because that seal there actually runs on that lip there, so you want to keep it lubed up so it doesn't wear out and then leak grease everywhere. One of my favourite sayings. Now we slide it on, push it up. You can have a bit of grease everywhere. Now we've got the bearing to go in. Just slide straight in.
Clean up your hands. Clean up a bit of excess grease there.
That's it.
Off the thread.
I go heavy on the grease.
Yes, of course. But
Lubrication is key.
that's coming together now as a pretty nice piece. Now Daniel's got his lock washer.
So lock washer's got a little tab there. It actually locates in a little keyway on the spindle. So we just slide that on. Now it can't rotate. And this nut here actually has threads in it that have been tapped out. So we put our nut on. Can I get
Do
that?
you?
Because it's new,
'Cause it's new.
sometimes it can be a bit...
Bit of a burr on it.
yeah, but we'll get there. So now I've done it up by hand. I've got my spanner and I'm just going to do it up till it butts up tight and then just back it off a touch and then spin my hub and make sure that I'm happy with the feel. So do that up tight, pretty tight, just back it off. Just one set of holes and then I'm happy with my feel, and then I'm going to fit my
Lock nuts.
lock bolts with a little reduced section there.
So that makes sure that this can't come out.
As I showed you before, I might need that spanner. Just back it off a touch more. So I'm just looking for any set of holes to line up in the washer. Sort of hard to see, but when you're in person, it makes sense. So I just fit that in there. Nip one up.
Perfect.
Just make sure there's no friction when you're doing them up, because otherwise you might just be crushing the washer rather than actually doing it up through the hole in the washer. So now I just
Nip them up.
not too tight again. That's why I've only got a small ratchet here.
So just half an ugga dugga for these ones?
Half an ugga dugga.
Half an ugga dugga.
Talk to 10
Yeah.
foot pounds. And then, yeah,
That's pretty nice.
G'day guys, Corey from the future of editing here, and unfortunately we're going to have to cut this episode short just because it's running a little bit long. So this is officially going to be part 1. Keep an eye out, part 2 will be coming out shortly. Thank you to Daniel and Peter and all their sponsors for allowing us to come into the shop and film these things. So make sure you guys stay tuned for part number 2 coming up very soon in just a couple of days. And thank you guys for the ongoing support that you have been giving these videos. It is really appreciated and such a joy to see.